Hi, good morning. We're live with Elisa Bruckner, founder of Access to Admission. Elisa has made it her life's mission to kick student loans goodbye. With a background in school counseling, she coaches youth and young adults to achieve their career goals. Today, Elisa and I are talking ROI, return on investment. College is expensive. How do families maximize what they receive from the funds invested in a college education? Please join me and Elisa in this conversation by posting your questions in the comments section, and we will read them online and she will answer them live. Let's start with Elisa. Tell us how you got involved in college counseling.
Hello there. So thank you for having me, first of all. College counseling is an absolute passion of mine. And I really originally started my career as a software developer. And through a year-long volunteer program, I decided to take just what I thought was going to be a break for 1 year to volunteer in the inner cities of Atlanta as doing community service and supporting my neighbors. And in that process, I ended up in a high school where I really had an opportunity to work with school counselors. And I saw such a need with students gaining support for college admissions. And almost always I would walk into the room and I would ask, who wants to go to college? And the students almost always raised their hand and said they wanted to go. But what was really the part that I noticed is that there wasn't a lot of support with skyrocketing school counseling caseloads. That one-on-one individualized support wasn't always there. And so that is how Access to Admission was birthed. That is how I really became an academic coach and college coach, as I call myself, and really got into this business. Is just really from the passion and from seeing the need in the community.
Oh, that's a wonderful story. Thank you. Can you tell us, today we're talking about paying for college. Can you tell us how families pay for college now?
So that is such a big question because it can be super expensive for college. And we know that in America, particularly, that student loan debt continues to be a very serious issue for families. And so with that being said, my mission is actually to really eliminate student loan debt. I believe we can eliminate student loan debt and that students can, in fact, go to college without having such a bill to have to worry about once they graduate. So scholarships are huge. One thing that parents definitely should know is that the majority of scholarship money that is given away every year, the majority of it actually comes directly from the institutions themselves. And so that's part of the research that we definitely need to do when we're researching colleges, is finding out what kind of funding do they have available for families. And you would be surprised that sometimes the schools that maybe you wouldn't expect actually have truly a mission themselves to also support students from various backgrounds. And so my job is most certainly to partner with families to help their students identify a list of colleges that are fit for them. And a part of that fit is that financial piece. So things like this, engaging in resources like this, that is awesome foundation for parents to just become aware of different topics related to college, because it's ever changing. It's very different from when I went to school. Even when I first started this business about 10 or 11 years ago, the rates of students getting accepted to college have continued to decrease. More students are applying, but the dorm rooms have not changed. We still have about the same dorm rooms on campus as they had 10 years ago, but the applications have increased. And so definitely positioning yourself, your student, in a way that can put them in position to earn the most money from a college is going to be key. And so with that, we want you to get the money early. We want you to apply early. We want you to be above whatever those median or middle scores are for students with their academic profile and their testing profile. So we want them to be competitive. And you do not have to have just a 4.0 and the top score in the ACT or SAT to earn scholarship awards. You can absolutely do that with students that maybe are just below that, but they're still working really hard. And so identifying those schools that'll be a good fit, that part is important.
Okay. And what makes a good financial fit?
Well, obviously, it really depends on what that gap is when it's time to make decisions. So, part of my philosophy is to cast a wide net and for students and parents to consider schools that aren't just in their backyard, but also to consider maybe a geographical diversity and schools that maybe are outside of the norm for you. But are still a good fit for you socially, still a good fit for you academically. That academic fit is important, and the social fit is important, even though that word is kind of used a lot. But those things are absolutely important for identifying what schools would give you that kind of package that you would want in the end, where students and parents aren't feeling strapped financially to attend a school. I do think that we need to get out of just applying to schools that have the names of the best football teams and basketball teams, because those schools may not be where you're going to get the biggest bang for your buck, if you will. There are definitely some schools. One of my favorite websites is Colleges That Change Lives, ctcl.org. Again, that's ctcl.org. That website in itself is a grouping of schools that I recommend all families to research. They have gone through a strenuous process to get on that list, and they're schools that do give financial awards. They are liberal arts schools. They're maybe not as known, but if you have one of those schools near you, I would definitely consider it.
You mentioned how to position a student when they're perspectives. Tell us, what can families do now to position their students, whether they're freshmen in high school or rising seniors?
So glad that you asked that, especially as we are coming on these hot summer months and students are on the East Coast for sure. Many of them have finished their academic year and they are wrapping it up, I know, on the West Coast soon. So the summer is actually an opportunity, yes, to get rest. It's an opportunity, yes, for you to enjoy yourselves as a family and vacation and do all of the things. But I've noticed that we spend a lot of money in the summer. And so what I really want to propose is that students and parents really identify what those weakest muscles are when it comes to your student's academic profile, and to address those things in the summer when students are free of having to turn in research papers and study for their math exams. This is a perfect time to really focus in on an area where they will need some strength. Or some improvement. We don't want to just say, oh, my student's not a good test taker, so it runs in the family. And so therefore we just kind of know that about ourselves and we don't address it. We want to address those things. And the summertime is a great opportunity to do that. I had a client a couple years ago that was really struggling with anxiety. And, we made the decision that prior to his junior year that we would not pursue an academic program for him, but that we would actually pursue something that would allow him to really come out of his shell a little bit more and really engage in identifying why he has that anxiety and then how to overcome that. And I mean, it made such a great difference when it came time to interview for scholarships and for admission to college. So identifying those things early, but it's never too late whenever you do identify it, and actually focusing some time, that's going to be a great return of your investment for your student in the long run and even after college.
Okay. What are you seeing trends-wise with colleges and universities as far as aid packages are concerned? Are they heavily weighted in a certain area or towards a certain type of student?
Well, I think the thing that you have to keep in mind is that colleges want to have a diverse freshman class, or that group that is coming in on that cohort for whatever grade your student graduates. And you need to know whether your student is falling on the part where it's a reach school for them, not unreachable, but just a reach school, meaning that it may be more competitive to get in compared to your student's academic profile. And now remember, when I say academic profile, I'm referring to their GPA, the academic courses that they have taken, and then also their test scores, their writing ability, their ability to study independently. So all of these things are a part of their academic profile. And so if your student is just under the median or the average scores of students that were admitted in previous years, then that may be a reach school for your student. And so that is, I would definitely encourage you to apply to those schools, particularly students of color. I think it's super important for them to apply to those schools because sometimes they don't feel like they have a place at the table. But I would say on top of that, like recognizing that the more you are on or above what that median is for that student profile, and the earlier you apply, the more likely you'll be awarded a financial aid package that will actually be one that would be pleasing for you, because they're going to want to encourage you to attend. And so sometimes that could just be a little bit of a few $1,000s, and other times it can be $50,000 every year for your student. So having a mix of schools that are safety financially, safety geographically, safe for acceptance, that's super important. But then your probable schools and your stretch schools are important as well. And so I would definitely say that you have to know what schools are looking for. It's going to be competitive to get into an engineering program at almost any school, right? But it may not be as competitive to be interested in a liberal arts type of a major at a more STEM school. And so there are some things that you can do to maybe position yourself to, now I'm not suggesting that you change your career interest or that you are not actually applying to a school or a program that is one that you're interested in. But I am suggesting that some of these schools have definitely some other majors and they're still great programs. And so you'll want to identify that. Sorry about the background.
No, that's okay. So that means that what I'm hearing is that if the student is at or slightly above the mean admissions criteria for a school, that aid is a good likelihood. And that if you try to position yourselves in unexpected areas, such as a liberal arts major at an engineering school, assuming that they, have the liberal arts types of programming that you'd like, that perhaps there are funds there, and it's less competitive because most of the students who are applying for engineering.
Right. Yeah. The other thing that I really want to point out is that there are programs that are available regionally. So in the South, it's the Academic Common Market. And so that covers states like, it actually covers Virginia, so Northeast. Then it also Maryland, Tennessee, Texas, there's several states in the Academic Common Market that have a program, a partnership together where if your student is interested in a major that they offer at a different school, that they can qualify for in-state tuition. So they would be out of state, but they would be attending a school that would give them in-state tuition. This kind of goes along with what I was saying earlier, that there are schools that are looking for students in particular majors, and they're willing to just say, look, come to our school out of state, we'll give you in-state tuition if you major in this particular program. And this is also available in other regions of the country. So the Midwest Student Exchange is available in the Midwest. That covers Ohio, Illinois, and all of our Midwestern states. So they have, reciprocity tuition programs at various levels for bachelor's, master's, and even doctorate programs. And so you can Google the Academic Common Market, you can Google the Midwest Student Exchange, and research if you actually have an interest in a program of study that may provide you off the cuff in-state tuition for a school that is out of state. So that's an awesome way to really formally do what I was suggesting about schools that are looking for diverse in geography and then also in major in the program study.
That's good news. I'm a parent of a rising senior, and it was very recent, maybe 2 years ago, that I learned about the reciprocity program, and that was from another family that was utilizing it for their child, that you can receive in-state tuition at an out-of-state school if you meet certain criteria.
Correct. Yes.
Now, do college admissions deadlines play into student financial packages?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you for bringing that up.
Mhm,
So, something that I always share with my students that are rising juniors,
mhm,
or while they are juniors, I tell them, the only thing that we know for sure is that your freshman year was, in fact, your first year of high school. That was your freshman year. But
mhm,
after that, it all gets mixed up. Your sophomore year is really your middle year, and your junior year is really, in my mind, like your senior year, because it's the last set of grades that schools will see when you are in the process of admission. And why is that? Because you are going to apply early. If you want to get the best money, we want you, and I'm not saying you have to apply early decision, there's a difference. So there are different types of applications. There's an early decision, which most often is like you've decided on the school, and if the school decides on you, you're saying, hey, I already said yes. And a lot of times that's binding. And if they accept you, you're going, you're done. You don't apply, you retract your applications from other schools, and you've decided that that's where you're going. That's something that you do typically do blind of the financial award. So we would want you to research using what's called a net price calculator on the school websites. And when you're developing your list and looking at research, you can put in some very key things about your family and the finances, the size of your household, and you can actually kind of get an idea of what types of packages the schools will provide a student like yours. And then there's early action. Early action can also be binding at some schools, but most often it is not binding. There is no requirement that you attend the school once you have been admitted. But what it is saying is that, hey, I'm applying early. And because I'm applying early, I want to find out early if you're going to say yes to me. And that gives you an idea as well with how you need to adjust your list as you move throughout the college admission season. But not only that, nowadays with financial aid, schools have gotten really good about sending those award letters almost right after they send out those acceptances, which is something we didn't have even just a few years ago. But because now families are required to use their tax returns from the previous year, they most likely have filed those returns. And if you haven't, please do that. They're going to file those returns, and we are submitting the financial aid application in October of your student senior year. And so the more on top of that you are, then the more likely you are to get that first funding that the schools have as they're developing their freshman class. And the more likely you are to get those top awards and to find out what the financial award package would be.
mhm. That's really good news about learning financial aid packages earlier, because for generations, students did not apply early decision or early action if they were aid dependent, because you needed to know how much you were going to receive. And often aid was not announced until closer to the spring, or really in April. So if you could not bind yourself to a school without knowing whether or not you were going to receive aid. So it's good to know for those of us who didn't know that aid awards are being made earlier in the process.
Yes. Now I want to be clear. You still are making the decision prior to finding out your official award. So you want to do the research ahead of time. Does this school have a history of giving students that have a similar profile? And with my information about my household, the type of award that would be beneficial for me. It's not a guarantee, but it sure is a great estimate. And it will help you identify your list when it comes to financial support. And so I don't think enough families utilize those net price calculators. You literally can Google the college name and then net price calculator next to it. And I'll be honest, some schools really are great about their net price calculator. Like they've added a lot of extra questions so that they can really hone in on what actually your financial award may be for attending their school. And others just put up the basic standardized net price calculator to make sure that they've checked the box that they have one available for you. And so it might not be as accurate, but these are great ways to research for yourself or your family what the financial award will be.
We have a question from Kimberly. I'm going to post it. Kimberly says, although a school is test optional, will they still use test scores for merit aid? Do you receive less without a test score?
So this is a big issue right now, especially coming off of the pandemic. So a lot of schools had been considering becoming test optional before COVID, or they were test optional, and now they're maintaining their test optional admission requirements, which is great because schools have found that students that are accepted on a test optional admission requirement, that they're performing just as well as students that did submit their test scores. So we know this already, that even without submitting a test score, if I get accepted to your school, then I'm still likely to perform well based off of the other metrics that they're reviewing. However, you're bringing up such a good point, Kimberly, because merit award is still very much kind of tied to test scores in some cases. So for the state of Georgia, for instance, we have the Hope Scholarship. In other states, they have similar types of things. And those state-ran programs just didn't move into the test optional kind of requirement in the same way that the colleges quickly did during COVID. And so for programs like that, you do need to read the fine print and find out. You'll also see that for presidential scholarships and honors programs and getting accepted to honors colleges at many of our schools, if they still are requiring those test scores be submitted. And so that's absolutely something that you need to consider if aid is important for you and that for those merit awards. Now, with that being said, we have some schools that were already on board with test optional and already kind of had steered the ship so that their actual merit aid scholarships did not consider test scores. So you have to do the research to figure out what some of those schools are. And it's a great question to ask when you are attending all of those fun informational sessions with your college reps.
Thank you. Thank you, Kimberly. And if anybody else has a question, please post it and Elisa will answer it. We're in the summertime, so I know a lot of people are thinking, I don't want to think about college. We just got out of a very difficult academic year. And
right.
We've already said earlier that the summertime is a good time to focus in on how to position your student for financial packages. What should families be doing at different stages of a student's academic career to position them for financial packages?
Yes, so summer is a time to regroup and re-energize, and I don't want to minimize that. I definitely want you to take advantage of that, but please do be intentional about some of the other items that should be on your list for the summer. So for ninth graders, that would most definitely be to just begin, ninth and 10th graders really, to begin identifying, because they haven't been in school, a lot of them, what clubs and extracurricular activities they want to participate in. I don't think that I have met with a ninth or 10th grader yet that has said that they really fully engaged at their high school. And so with that, what's nice is they've kind of already engaged academically with what high school is all about, but they didn't have an opportunity to engage with all the things that are offered. So get on your high school website, find out what's available, what clubs are available, what extracurricular activities, what intramural sports or what official sports will be available, and decide on which 2 or 3 you're really going to try out. It's okay to try some things out and to see what that's like. By the time that you are a spring semester sophomore going into your junior year, we want you to really focus in and go deep on what some of your interests are. And so in the summertime, it's a planning time. It's creating your goals and identifying what you really want to engage in once you are back in school. But it's also, I want you to be careful not to have the excuse of being virtual to not get involved. There are so many things that are happening virtually with some of the clubs at your schools and in your community that we really want you to get involved and find something that you would enjoy doing. It will make your high school experience that much more enjoyable for sure. And for our juniors and our seniors, green light, go. Junior year is a very, very difficult year. It's difficult in that you should be really engaging in your most difficult, rigorous courses. If you don't feel like you have really challenged yourself up until this point, reach out to your school counselor and let's revisit your schedule for the fall so that you can try that AP class if you haven't previously, so that you can engage in an honors level course or dual enrollment, even if your school and state offer programs like that. The other thing is to start identifying, like really identifying your college list. So as juniors and rising seniors, we want you on those Google searches and looking for those colleges and plugging your numbers for the net price calculator and figuring out like what programs of study do they offer and all of those great things in creating your list. And really a coach is something that can help you with that. That's something that we do. That's something that we help with families do, because it can be overwhelming and you don't really want to miss any opportunities. And so if you engage in a coach like Access to Admission has, or someone else, engage with your school counselor, if nothing else, to find out what programs are coming up, what's happening, so that you're not missing out on anything. And for our rising seniors, I need those essays to get started ASAP. We want to hear your voice. We want to know what's important to you, what makes you unique. And that is going to be key in your application, is really knowing who you are outside of your grades and outside of your letters of recommendation and those test scores. We want to know what kind of makes you tick. And so writing that essay this summer is going to be key.
Okay, thank you. What I'm hearing is be you, the best you that you are, and the real you, not a made up you that we're told to
right,
in order to gain admission. Sell that real you to a school that matches who and what you are and will appreciate you. So it may not be the big name football school, like you said, or the top 10, whatever school, even if you are top 10 at your high school.
Right.
And today we were talking return on investment, as far as what you, how much you actually pay for college to earn that college degree, but also somewhat what money you put into the college admissions process.
Okay, yeah.
Especially where should families concentrate if they have limited funds, but they want to maximize their resources and the time they spend on the admissions process?
Right. So I'm going to kind of give you an answer that kind of covers the spectrum, I hope. So I heard years ago from a financial aid officer at a prestigious college that, he recommends that parents pay their students to search for colleges. Search for scholarships. I thought that was awesome. Correct. Let's just give them a little stipend, whatever that needs to be for you, because the return on your investment with that, when they get the scholarship, the hardest part is just getting the first scholarship done. Once they've done that and they're continuing to apply, then I believe that that's an awesome return on your investment for you. And they will feel proud about also engaging in the college admission process, helping mom and dad with that tuition bill by earning a scholarship award from a private program. Additionally, there are so many free options out there. If you qualify, you can get a free test waiver for the ACT and the SAT. And with that, particularly with the ACT, there are free test prep programs that come with your fee waiver that students can engage in, and those are online. We also love Khan Academy, KHAN. If you have not heard of Khan Academy, then I'm so excited that I'm the first one to tell you, but they have some awesome test prep available for students for free. And what's nice about Khan Academy is that if your student is or has taken the PSAT, get that report. It will sync to your Khan Academy account, and students can then really decide and see what they really need to focus on the most, because test prep is huge. We've already talked that it's important for merit scholarships, merit awards, and also getting accepted to college still. But taking the time to prepare and study is super important. So definitely moving forward with engaging in some of those free resources would be key.
Wonderful. Thank you. We are at the end of our half hour, but I do want to put up this. Michelle says this is wonderful, and I agree, Michelle, it is a lot of good information. As for a wrap up, can you tell us any trends or pitfalls that you see families engaged in?
I would just be careful of any organizations that are maybe asking you to pay for you to complete the free application for financial aid. That is most certainly not something that should cost you money. There are state reps almost everywhere that can help you with the financial aid application. And you can actually call FAFSA directly, 1-800-4-FED-AID. I love that number. I know it. And you can call them and get help, or they can point you in the right direction. So just being cautious of that and utilizing all of the resources that are available for you, for sure. You know what? A lot of times parents of teens say the same things that I say, but just me saying it, your students receive it. And so definitely engaging in a supportive community in this process is really helpful for parents because you can absolutely say the same thing over and over again. It may not resonate in the same way as if I say it as a college expert. So definitely engaging in organizations like Access to Admission or others that can support you in this process for sure.
Okay, I am posting some of your tips. I want to make sure I get this one right. 1-800-FED-AID, FEDAID.
1-800-4-FED-AID.
I knew I was short one digit, so I wanted to make sure I got it.
Thank you.
Okay.
Yes, I said it quickly.
Elisa, we're at the end of our time today. Thank you for sharing and spending time with us. We're getting lots of great comments. People appreciate your tips.
Awesome. Thank you so much for having me. I've enjoyed it.
We did too. Thank you.